Well, let's move on to the state of the NHS, which has faced a number of strikes, of course. In normal times, roughly 1 in 20 999 calls for an ambulance are follow-ups to find out when it will arrive. Well, our research into ambulance trust documents shows that over the worst of the winter's delays, that rose to 5 in 20 in certain parts of the country.
Ambulance workers are preparing to walk out again next week. But today, they were heading into Parliament to meet ministers and MPs and tell them just how bad they feel things are right now.
I've been in the ambulance service now for 24 years and I've never seen anything like this.
It's quite terrifying at the moment. I can dispatch and I can see a job on my screen, like a non-injury full patient on the floor, and I can go home at the end of my 12-hour shift and then come back the next day and that job's still on my screen, yeah.
So how long could they have been lying on the floor?
Potentially 17, 18, 24 hours.
Now ITV News has scoured through hundreds of board papers released by ambulance trusts across England that underline the true scale of this winter's crisis. The papers showed that in the West Midlands, the number of repeat 999 calls asking, "Where is my ambulance?" had risen fivefold from 5 to 25% of the total. The North West Ambulance Service believed a lack of available resources had contributed in some way to 5 patient deaths. In the North East, staff were urged to divert patients from emergency departments wherever possible. And in the South Central region, the frontline attrition of staff leaving the service was 18.4% in December, a doubling in 2 years. You're going to see MPs in Parliament. If you see the Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, what will you say to him?
Help us.
Today, the GMB Union have written to Parliament's Health Select Committee outlining those statistics and warning that ambulance services are in a state of crisis. They say patient safety is at risk under the status quo. Inside, ambulance workers, including some union reps, had to settle for Health Minister Will Quince. But they found Steve Barclay too.
For paramedics, actually, interestingly, and it's only an anecdote, so I won't say this applies to all areas, but when I was visiting one station recently, the frustration with the length of handover delays, they said, was a greater issue for them than pay. That wasn't to say pay wasn't a factor.
Matthew Holbert doesn't know if lying on the floor for 11 hours waiting for an ambulance contributed to his mum Jackie's death.
In a situation where you feel like you have very little control over what is happening, your relative is suffering, the one thing you feel like you can do every few hours is to call 999 again and say, this person is still distressed.
The GMB said trusts also made clear that deals with the unions on strike days did let them put patient safety first. They say conditions are part of the issue, but only pay will solve these strikes. Anoush Gristana, News at 10.